Tadashiva Samarambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Ishwara Namaste. Welcome. So, verse 5, chapter 12. Difficulties are more for those people whose mind are committed to the pursuit of the unmanifest Brahman. Because the goal of the unmanifest Brahman is very difficult for people still attached to with bodily attachments. And Swami is going to further explain the unfoldment of Aham, body as me. The people who are very much grossly identified with the physical body gets attached to the physical body, and everything physical it associates with that provides security and satisfaction. So attachment to the physical body is a gross attachment that makes a gross body to attach to other gross people and gross things. Okay. So if one is very much attached to the body, physical body, the mind needs refinement. Therefore, meditating upon the unmanifest Brahman is more difficult. So it's an interesting verse. Swami is going to organize it better, because difficulties, there are more difficulties for those commit to Yin Yoga, So, but then in the end, you see, provide they are still too much attached to the physical body. So it means to say that in order to make the Yin Yoga easier, one needs to diminish the attachments with the physical body, and all physical people and things we get attached to as well. It doesn't mean that it's karma yoga and upasana yoga and observance of dharma is easier. No, not necessarily. All these yogas are difficult. All of them are difficult. And each one of these states of sadhanas, they are very difficult, and they require different sort of qualifications of each one of those states. And then when we come to Yin Yoga, we have to have the previous qualifications in place, which to keep it simple, which is the topic of this chapter 12, which is what? Devotion to Ishwara, the devotion to Saguna, Nirguna, Ishwara. So you need to develop this devotion so that you can go through the indeed difficult stage of Karma Yoga, which involves not only understanding the Ishwara system, the relationship Jivatma, Ishwaratma, but involves the development of a certain sentiment which further and more rapidly purifies and refines the body-mind of the seeker. So that's to say that every one of these stages is not easy because they require certain qualifications, but when you come to Yin Yoga, you need to have all those developments in place, and all previous developments can be synthesized by the word devotion to the Lord, love and appreciation for the opportunity. So Swami says that Krishna Guru is saying, admitting that Nirguna Dhyana, Nirguna Dhyana, yeah, you cannot call Nirguna Upasana, but we can call nididhyasana. Admits that nididhyasana is extremely difficult, which means to say that Yana Yoga is extremely difficult, which means to say that understanding the nirguna nature of the self is extremely difficult. All of these is they translate to Yana Yoga is very difficult. And as we know, Yana Yoga consists of three stages of disciplines, of sadhanas, shravana, manana, and nididhyasana. And nididhyasana is the Upanishad meditation. And as we know, meditate upon nirguna Brahman is meditate on the most subtle possible. Because Brahman is not an object of experience, of knowledge, of conceptualization, and Brahman is not an object of meditation either. So how are you going to meditate upon Brahman? You're going to meditate upon something that is so subtle, so invisible, that it's impossible to meditate except by utilizing the finest and subtlest symbol of Brahman, which is scripture. Upanishad is scripture. There was a time that I was repeating it. The highest symbol of God, of Brahman, so that we have something to meditate upon, Oh, it's myself. Oh, it's peace. Oh, it's scripture is the highest possible symbol, is the best symbol if your goal is to realize the Brahman within. So the Shravana, Vedantic Upanishad Shravana is relatively simpler. Some people, they see it makes no sense, I don't see any, it is nonsense, okay? Some people find, interesting philosophy, but they don't bother to try to understand by removing the doubts. They say, yeah, it's a philosophy, but as every philosophy is full of defects, it's full of misconceptions, okay? And then they discard. It's an interesting philosophy. And then some people look more deeply through the Shravana to looking for the fact is acceptable, okay? It's much better than discarding Shravana or Manana. Say, I don't do any Manana because I saw so many defects. No, find the facts. And then later on, look deeper to see if there are defects or just you could not understand the teachings. So this Atmayana or mokshas can all be gained as Yana Yoga. And Yana Yoga consists of these three stages, Nididhyasana being the last stage, which is deep, profound meditation upon Nirguna Brahman. Since Nirguna Brahman is not an object of meditation, I meditate upon the scriptures that reveals Nirguna Brahman as my very nature. So as we see, difficulties abound, obstacles are innumerable. So there are so many difficulties. Yes, for some people who comes to Shravana Manana, they have difficulties even in conceiving Saguna Ishwara. They have difficulty in following Dharma. They have difficulty relate to having any sense of gratitude and reverence to Saguna Ishwara. They have difficulty to accept one's Paravadas. with equanimity. There are so many difficulties which builds up on the way, piles up. And then on top of all those difficulties, innumerable obstacles, there is the obstacle of a mind which is too gross to meditate upon Nirguna Brahman until it understands Brahman as its own nature. So these difficulties are very common. The difficulties are there for people who are not properly qualified, but here he presents people who never really commit to the formulas Brahman to begin with. So when we come to Vedanta, the invisible formulas, Nirguna Atma, Brahman, the commitment must be solid because it's so subtle. There is nothing you can hold on to, It's the most subtle, viveka, discrimination, is the understanding of the self, conscious existence as something other than human mind. The difficulties are innumerous and intense. They are almost insurmountable. You cannot even, go around or climb it around it. It's a huge obstacle, but only when we don't have all those qualifications in place. In Katha Upanishad, they use this word, Kushurayasya. Okay, it's like walking on a razor's edge. It seems it's said in the Katha Upanishad. Krishna says in yoga is difficult. And what's the reason? I never liked much this concept of the path to self-knowledge is like walking on a razor's edge. Why? Because walking on a razor's edge is difficult. But furthermore, it's very dangerous, So people may say, no, yeah, it's very difficult, but I always, 30 years ago, I always terrified. Oh my God, just more. I don't want to try to walk at the edge, of a razor, because if I fall, I'm done, No, it's just a dramatic expression to say that it's very difficult. Formulas is indeed dukkha, means difficult to reach. Difficult to reach. Okay. To whom? Nirguna Dhyana is extremely difficult to be practiced for whom? And then Swami says a very simple naked truth. For the majority of people which are ordinarily unqualified for Nirguna Brahman Nididhyasana. Most of people, the majority of people, they are going to find it very difficult. And it is difficult. But it becomes easier and easier as we qualify, we purify, we refine the mind, we make the mind subtle, we break the attachment and identification with the gross body, and that is going to help the development of the subtler mind rather than a gross mind. The mind is going to be less disturbed, afraid that the body may get a disease and die, and this and that. Right? The mind is more calm, more focused, more clear. So the most common obstacle is fear of death. So let's say here what Swami says. Fear of losing your physical body, because if I lose my physical body, I lost my existence. The common obstacle for all is this. Krishna says the common obstacle is attachment to one physical body, which makes the mind grosser and grosser and grosser. And this relationship, this connection Swami presents here, I found it very beautiful. The body-mind is an organic well-integrated organism, let's say. You cannot separate the mind from the physical body and the physical body from the mind. I mean, even though when you die, you get separate, the mind gets separate. But once incarnated, you have the body-mind complex, which is an integrated organism. And the way to make the mind more subtle is understand our nature, at least as the subtle body, until we can purify, refine, subtleize, let's say, the mind until it can understand its true nature, which is sattva, then the subtle body. And then the mind says, okay, let the physical body go. I'm going to get another body. I am the mind, or howsoever you want to call your subtle body. So if one starts seeing the body very objectively and detaching to the body, and this detachment is not achieved by free will of willpower alone. One needs a body of knowledge that's going to show why fundamentally we are not the body. And the simpler logic behind it is that we say, I see my body is aging. We say, I see my body is aging. But for that, the person has to have had a certain understanding of the teachings of Vedanta, not to say, I am aging. Most people are going to say, I am aging. But once we start seeing the body objectively, we say, my physical body is aging. Anything that you see, you witness, okay, you objectify, it must be different from the one seeing, witnessing, or objectifying. So that is the subtle intellect. The subtle intellect is going to objectify the mind and the body. So it's easy for us to begin breaking the identification with the physical gross body, because we want to refine our personality. We don't want to have a physical gross personality. A gross physical personality is that one that is gross in the sense even that he's going to do anything to protect the physical body. Can deceive, can cheat, can lie around, doing anything that can give them a sense of more security and more protection, so that they can keep alive the body. They believe they are the body. The grossest kosher is anamaya kosher, the food kosher. The grossest of the most fundamental, the grossest level of our personality is the physical personality. So the person who is fully identified with the physical body does not even understand that it has a mind as well, and does not have a perspective. The mind is changing. The mind can be improved. There is no time. Every time is running to feed and protect the physical body, because the conviction there is that I am the body, and if I lose the body, I am done. I'm done. The person lives obsessed with the body, like the ordinary people, obsessed with trying to protect the body from die. And then one lives a life running in the rat race, looking for better clothes and shelter. And then later on, he's going to be concerned about is the government is the government going to comply with my retirement? I mean, here my brother has put so much into retraining. He lost everything because things here collapsing and halfway collapsed already. So all the thing he's put in his company's retirement fund, which was like that with the government, because 50% belongs to the government. They went into bankruptcy, and the government said, "Okay, we don't have money for your retirement anymore. Get over it." You know. Now my brother is back working at the age of 68. So the the concern is there. After the concern with shelter and how to protect my body, and can I trust the government in the retirement? So there is inflation. Now everybody knows that inflation is taxation. And so am I going to have enough money, you know, after 10 years, 20 years of retirement? Because inflation is going to and so on. A lot of concerns, and all these concerns relate to the physical body who wants to be protected. This is natural, but should not be an obsession. Everybody enjoys to be alive. Everybody should, and we all should, take care rather than neglect the physical body, but without obsession. Without obsession. But if I live all the time worried about my physical security, this kind of mind is too gross to go beyond the identification with the physical body. It's identified with the physical body, it has the potential to identify with the mind, and then once it objectifies the mind, it has a possibility to identify with the subtle intellect that is working to improve the mind, and so on. Once I'm attached to the physical body, as the physical body, I'm attached to everything physical around me, including my car, my house, the people. Directly proportional to with your physical body attachment is attachment to all kinds of objects you relate to in this world. Because we relate to everything physical in this world through the physical body. Now, if your personality is totally consolidated within this identification, I am the physical body, it's going to be attached to everything it comes in contact with, things that gives me a sense of satisfaction and pleasure, attachment, dependence. Therefore, I have a very strong individuality. That's what's the meaning. Sense of very strong physical individuality. This is limiting me, localizing me, and therefore such a person cannot imagine an unlocalized, formless, all-pervading personality. It cannot transform itself into a subtler and subtler sense of identification, of identity. Transform and transcend the form is the first level of transformation. Transform and transcend the identification with the physical body is the first transformation. And therefore, Krishna says, the stronger the body attachment is, more difficult is Jnana Yoga. Right? Anything? Swami is reminding that in this verse, Krishna has presented Bhakti Yoga as the fundamental yoga, this attitude, the sentimental reverence towards God. But the final stage of Bhakti Yoga is nothing but Jnana Yoga. Jnana Yoga requires devotion, such as in every other stage of sadhanas. We should remember Jnana Yoga is the highest level of Bhakti Yoga. This is so important, so true. Jnana Yoga is the highest and final level of Bhakti Yoga. But the problem is here, the Lord that we are devoted to is extremely subtle. There is not Saguna Ishwar, but it's Nirguna Atma, Nirguna Brahman. Ishvara's original nature, my own nature, which is Nirguna Atma, Nirguna Brahman. So how I'm gonna have devotion to something that you know there is nothing, no no feature, no property, no use. What is the use? I mean, let's talk in terms of use, you know. We want Saguna Ishvara because it helps us. It removes certain obstacles. It relaxes the mind, understanding the Ishvara system and so on. Acceptance grows. But how I'm going to have devotion to Nirguna Ishvara, that which has no use, is not going to help me to feel more safe, more secure. Is that the case? Just because Brahman does not have any feature or property? So does it mean that knowing Ishvara, Nirguna Brahman as my very nature is not going to be useful at all? Of course not. The most valuable thing is to know your true nature as Nirguna Brahman. Who are you? Although Nirguna Brahman, my very nature as Nirguna Atma, has no feature, no property, no attribute, but we could say it has something that is not really an attribute. It is limitless. It is the only game in town. It's the only thing existing. Yeah? So what is the usage, the benefit of knowing that the true nature of Nirguna Ishvara is your very nature, which is your human conscious existence, true nature, which is limitless? Then we have to remember that everything we do in life is an attempt to remove the sense of limitation and finitude. Everything we do within Vedantic sadhanas is an attempt to reestablish the conviction of our true nature as limitless conscious existence, the only reality. We hear that that's our true nature, fullness is our nature, completeness is our nature, and all I have to do is to hold on to these teachings until I believe it fully, without doubt. And then I live from that profound platform of understanding regarding my very identity nature. So this worship or devotion or reverence towards Nirguna Brahman you cannot do that physically. You cannot do mentally. You cannot do it, holding on to any concept. And how are you going to do this worship, this devotion towards that which is absolutely invisible, subtle, and with no feature, with no property, with no qualities? For Nirguna Brahman, where is the question for Agyam, Padayam? Yeah, I don't remember this. Do you guys know?
It's part of puja, like offering water, washing the hands, washing the feet, like that.
He's going to mention these things. So there is, all these physical, verbal, and mental exercise we do, we call them sadhanas. They have no place. No. Yeah. Nirguna Brahman does not have anything you can hold on to. You cannot do anything physical. And it goes beyond. We cannot do anything mentally. We cannot do anything verbally before we think in terms of mentally. Therefore, worshipping this Nirguna Brahman in a very constant and steady thing is only possible through action, atma vichara, self-inquiry. Self-inquiry must become devotional. Self-inquiry must become a form of worship. It must be there with a sense of reverence, love, and attitude to the scriptures, because the scriptures is an expression of Ishvara, the supreme intelligence. And supreme intelligence is of the nature of Nirguna Atma. So we are getting in contact with the highest form of meditation, the highest form of devotion. And we, in order to develop this sense, worship, reverence, love, and appreciation, we need to hold on to the scriptures at least. At least. Or you can throw the scripture and say, no, I worship myself. I hold on to my very self. That's possible, but it is dangerous, because chances are that there will be some superimposition of the attributes of the body mind on that which I'm calling now myself. Therefore, scriptures is that by which we develop reverence, love, and worship towards to. And we do that now with the help of a guru, listening, shravana, to the teachings, manana, reflecting, resolving doubts, and then nididhyasana, doing my own meditation. As we know, shravana and manana, the teaching may be involved. Nididhyasana, nobody is able to do it to anybody else. Systematic start gaining the knowledge, converting it into conviction. Conviction of knowledge, assimilation is the next step. In the language of Swamiji, internalizations is another step. And then consolidation, or fortitude, or establish this knowledge in such a way that it's no longer subject to forgetfulness or doubts. So this is kind of our Jnana Yoga Puja, reverence and love and worship in the scriptures, knowing that is the highest symbol of the self. And this is so beautiful. And it says, when they do puja, they say, I do puja, but I offer something. I offer some effort. I offer some money. I go around the mountain doing, I forgot the name, for many times, 2-3 hours. I hurt my foot. So I do some sacrifice, I give something. I'm offering something. And when you go into Vedanta, all you have to offer is your self-ignorance. So I'm offering myself ignorance at the altar of Atma Vichara as present in the scriptures, in the light of the scriptures. I'm offering my ignorance into the fire of knowledge. And therefore, Jnana Yoga itself is a form of devotional worship towards the Lord. Lord represented by the scriptures. That is the Nididhyasana. This is Jnana Yoga, the 3 levels, Shravana, Mana, and Nididhyasana. It has to be permeated by devotion, seeing the scripture and the teachings as the highest symbols, so that we can have something to hold on to for the development of devotion. This is the final stage of Bhakti Yoga, presented by the verse number 3, 4, 5. It is Jnana Yoga. It is Bhakti Yoga. in the form of Jnana Yoga. And the word that the Lord is using here is aksharopasana. So it's a form of upasana. Very interesting. Upasana. He's using the term upasana, aksharopasana. The technical word here is aksharopasana, nirguna Brahman upasana. I never heard that before. I have heard that nirguna Brahman jhana, but here I learned something else. Nirguna Brahman aksharopasana. Yeah, it's a higher kind of upasana, which means manana, shravana manana nijijasana, nirguna Brahman visaya, shravana manana nijijasana, and the yani yogis are called akshara upasakas. Different terms to explain the same thing. It's a form of meditation, it's a form of dhyana, but it's on, the more subtle nature of the Lord. Having talked about this upasana or nirguna Brahman vichara or nijijasa, Lord Krishna openly admits and confesses that this stage is extremely difficult. In the last class, we have seen that Upanishad itself compares Jnana Yoga to walking on a razor's edge. Why it's so difficult? The reason is very simple. The Lord I want here to worship here is not available for objectification. It's not available for conceptualization. It's not attained by perception and inference. And it's not even an object of devotion, an object of devotion. So I need something to be devoted to. And since Brahman is not an object, period, not even of meditation, we have to meditate upon the scriptures, knowing that the only way to reach Brahman is by understanding what the Upanishad scriptures are saying, that it's your very true nature. How can I worship and study this Brahman? My intellect is used to objectification, therefore, an objectifying instrument will find it difficult. This is an instrument of objectification, this is very nice. The objectify instrument, it's so much designed and used to objectify everything in order to know things, How can I conceive something which is unobjectifiable and yet must be known according to our scriptures? It can be ultimately received only in the form. And what is that form? That Brahman, the nirguna, is not objectifiable. Not because it's non-existence, but because it's not in the form of any object, but it is my very nature, my very atma, my very self. Soham, that's called Soham Dhyanam, meditation upon that which is the real nature, true nature, only nature of everything in existence. Yet does not have any attribute of the goodness. Everything in the existence, they are formations from the gunas, but yet nirguna atma, for definition, is the true self which is free from any guna, no guna. That nirguna Brahman, aham, means I am that nirguna Brahman, is the only way to come to the end of this process, of this meditation upon that which does not have any future. I will understand that only as my true nature. as myself. And the true difficulty is like all of this is easily understood. But the most difficult thing is to define this myself properly in a way that I can meditate upon myself without transferring any attributes of my body, mind, sense, self, to that which I'm trying to know, understand, realize. That's what makes it more difficult. I need to meditate upon something which has no feature or quality, is my true nature, my true self, is the source of existence of everything, but it has no form. So I can only know it as myself, but then we have to go through the entire Upanishad process to what? To re-examine our sense of self and redefine ourselves over and over and over and over again until we redefine it in a way that I say, my true self has no qualities, features, or attribute. And I want to meditate on my true self. But it's easier to understand that you meditate upon the true nature of God. Nirguna Brahman, Aham means I am this Nirguna Brahman. So if you write in Tamil, be careful, Sokam, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, we are not going to go into grammar here. The first problem is what? I cannot objectify this Nirguna Brahman. And the second problem is it requires lots of qualifications like Viveka, Vairagya, Samadhi, Sataka, Sampati, Mumukshutva. So the first problem is cannot be an object of experience, knowledge, conceptualization, and devotion even. The second problem is you have to have all qualifications in place. And the qualifications in place here can be broadly defined as profound worship, a sense of devotion and love for this process and find the true nature of God. Therefore, also it appears to be difficult. And therefore, Krishna says, it is very difficult, but if the individual is not qualified. It means to say, if the individual is qualified, it's not difficult at all. Is Yin Yoga extremely difficult? If we take Yin Yoga extremely difficult, what I'm supposed to do? This is a nice talk delivery of Swamiji here. He says, I am a spiritual seeker for the past 50 years. And now I'm interested in Nirguna Brahman and Moksha. But I find this Yin Yoga very vague, abstract. I don't know how to go about with this one. What should I do? It reminds me when I was in Lucknow, and I had an English friend. He was serious, but he was lacking more qualifications than I did at the time. He was not understanding the meditation on I am proposed by Ramana and Nisargadatta. Okay, he was not understanding the self-inquiry presented by Ramana as inquiring into the nature of I by asking, who am I or what am I? So he was telling me, I don't know, these things make no sense to me. I love the satsangs. I'm here since 3-4 years and I don't go anywhere. but it feels too mental to me, all of that. I don't know. And I was looking at that too mental. Why I don't find it too mental? Because somehow I could tap into what those sages were saying, which is beyond uh, men- philosophy or mentalities or mental concepts you may hear. So hold on to the sense feeling. I exist. I am as consciousness. Now, Nisargadatta, did not elaborate to say, hold on to that. That is not your true fundamental free nature, but is going to purify your mind. That is a reflection upon a mind that can meditate, is prepared to meditate upon one sense of existence, which is difficult by itself. So if we have trouble to tap into these sadhanas, what shall we do? And so I'm here explaining. A lot of people, majority of people will come to a simple conclusion. No, this is not from me. I'm going to look for a different path, a different yoga, yeah, a different journey, yeah, a different alternative, a spiritual path, a different spiritual path. Yeah. But we have seen in the previous verse that only through knowledge, self-ignorance can be removed. There are many paths, but there is only one path in the case of self-ignorance, which is applying self-knowledge. And for that, you need a body of knowledge, which is going to neutralize or dispel that level of ignorance. What shall I do? I try different paths. Okay, I'm going to do Karma Yoga. I'm going to do Bhakti Yoga. I'm going to do Raja Yoga. All these yogas are great. I'm going to do meditation. I'm going to do any sort of esoteric meditation. All is okay, provided you really know what you can get from them and what you will never get from them. You're never going to get liberation from any of this. So, many yogas are there, many paths, many sadhanas. The general conclusion, most people, the majority of people, arrive is I'm going to follow another path, a simple path, a simple path. And very often they say, I'm going to follow Bhakti Yoga, as if Bhakti Yoga is a yoga by itself. It's much easier if you take Bhakti Yoga as the development of a certain sentiment that produces tears in your eyes in a satsanga, Oh, these Vedanta people, it's missing. I don't see anybody shedding tears during satsang. It's so rare. No, I don't see devotion. If a person thinks that it can go about doing other paths to get self-knowledge, the person is deviating from our sampradaya. You say it means that one has deviated from the sampradaya. And you cannot imagine how many people have seen deviating from this sampradaya for lack of qualifications and lack of understanding. So I have so many students that came with enthusiasm and disappeared. The Sampradaya will never give such an answer. Sampradaya means what? Our traditional Vedic teachings. What is wrong with that conclusion? You should understand that as we have established through the Vedas and the Upanishads, for moksha, there is only one path. It is knowledge, because self-ignorance is the cause of bondage, And self-knowledge is the removal of self-ignorance, which translates to freedom from that kind of bondage. Vedas clearly says only in yoga will lead a person to liberation. Other than knowledge, alternative paths do not exist for liberation. Because if ignorance is the problem, knowledge is the only solution. If darkness is the problem, bringing light is the only solution. And then someone goes into some examples or some analogies. Among those, the one that I like the most is some people living the ashram and they are not getting light and they want to remove their ignorance. They have tried all kinds of disciplines and pujas and rituals and repetitions and mantras and they say, okay, I heard somewhere that you can sweep this ignorance away. And then the person, find a donation, goes out, buy a broom and start brooming the ashram all day long, as an effort to sweep away its ignorance. No, you will never sweep away ignorance. You will never sweep away your darkness. You will never sweep away your ignorance by doing pujas or going into dimensions. So it cannot remove darkness because darkness is not real, actually. But darkness can be offset by light. Darkness is absence of light. Darkness is not a positive principle, It's just the absence of light. So yogasana is good, but it cannot remove ignorance, darkness. Sweeping the floor in the ashram is wonderful, but it's not remove your self-ignorance. Sweeping the floor with an attitude of a karma yoga is even better, but it's not going to remove your ignorance. There is only way to remove self-ignorance is by applying self-knowledge. Shankaracharya makes it so clear through all his writings, including Atma Bodha. Darkness can go only by light. Ignorance can only go by knowledge. Samsara, the pain and the grief of samsara is because of self-ignorance. You cannot remove samsara, which is this belief. Now I am the body and I have to do things to protect this body. And this is the only source of security and satisfaction. This ignorance is due to this fundamental mistaken sense of identity. I am the physical body. So samsara produces great suffering. And that's all due to misidentification with the physical body. And then moksha is only possible through correction of that identification with the body, with the identification with your true nature, consciousness as yourself. And if I'm firmly assert that knowledge is the only means, I should not come to wrong conclusions. Or you should not call me a fanatic. So Dayananda used to play with this. He used to say, I prefer to be a fanatic than a lunatic. You crazy, yogi people, you want to remove ignorance, self-ignorance by doing some things, verbally, physically, and mentally. So if you call me a fanatic, I prefer that, because rather than that, you guys are lunatic. Call me whatever you prefer. I have to tell ignorance goes only by knowledge. Oh, but now it's different. So if you keep saying that, we're gonna crucify you because time has changed. We don't accept those kind of heresies, And then what Dayananda would do, Only God knows. So the Vedas repeated a certain only through knowledge. I never forget the day that when I was fanatic for Ramana Maharaj, I was buying all his books in the ashram there, old books and so on, there was a passage that he was saying, by knowledge and knowledge alone, the self can be realized. When I read that, I said, you know, it was before Vedanta came into my life. By knowledge and knowledge alone, this coming from the ultimate yogi, who lived decades in deep nirvikalpa samadhi. He says, don't overrate nirvikalpa samadhi because it's not going to remove your self-ignorance. Therefore, to say that jnana is difficult, I will take a different path, a simpler path, a more tangible path. This is born out of confusion and lack of viveka, discrimination regarding your spiritual process. Again, we should remember darkness or ignorance goes only by knowledge alone, as Brahman said, and knowledge comes only by inquiry and study of the scriptures revealing the true nature of the Jivatma, which is the Atma, the self of all creatures and beings, including the Creator. So knowledge is going to come only with the help of Scripture and Guru, and knowledge will come only by studying. And if any field of knowledge requires a body of knowledge, as we know, you cannot learn physics if you study philosophy or otherwise. So every body of knowledge is going to provide the specific knowledge of that field. And the most unique thing about self-knowledge, as we know, which differs from all kinds of fields of knowledge, is that it's not an object of knowledge. Okay, now I have gone through all fields of knowledge in science, philosophies, and this and that. Now I want to go into self-knowledge. Okay, so be careful. You know what you're getting into, because it is there, available to be known, but it's not an object of knowledge. What it means? It means that your mind, your sense, your intellect is not going to help. So what I need, you need a proper pramana. So what kind of pramana is this? The scriptures. And furthermore, you need a guru, and then the person forget it. I don't believe there is anything on knowing something which has no features, properties, or qualities that my mind can grasp. If there are alternative methods for getting knowledge, like meditation, you can go on saying, what is physics? What is physics? He's making this beautiful analogy. So if you believe that you can learn some fields, scientific fields of knowledge by repeating mantras or by doing any repetition or meditating upon, I want to learn quantum physics. I want quantum physics. I want to know everything. I want to understand all these theorems, So you can be there focusing, focus like I say, you have to focus and you're gonna create reality, and then you're gonna get the knowledge. So you can try hard. You're never going to get any knowledge unless you follow a means of knowledge, a body of knowledge that, a method that allows us to understand that field of knowledge. And self-knowledge is the most intriguing and difficult because it's not an object. No wonder nobody is interested in Vedanta. And they may be interested in Vedanta, but diluted forms of Vedanta. Vedanta mixed up with a lot of things, including psychology. Vedanta is a mere philosophy. We cannot get knowledge by doing things. repeating mantras, going to temples, going around the mountain, Arunachala mountain. Any knowledge requires what? Consistent, systematic study on that field of knowledge that facilitates the understanding of that field of knowledge. That should be extended to self-knowledge as well. It requires atato brahma jinyasa. This Vyasacharya begins with this sutra. Can you repeat this? Pronounce this to me, please.
Which one?
Okay.
Vyasa,
Go ahead there, Mark. Yeah.
Vyasacharya.
Jinyasa.
Ah,
Jignasa.
Jig.
Jignasa.
Okay, jignasa.
vinyasa.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Jignasa. So Vyasacharya begins with this sutra. Vinyasa means systematic study of the relevant literature, the literature relevant to that field of knowledge. I want to know physics, and then I read those kind of scriptures. It's a question of studying the appropriate literature. You cannot study the literature of chemistry to get this physics knowledge. So the same thing is self-knowledge. You have to study the appropriate literature. It has nothing to do with mysticism or esotericism. It's unbelievable how people are lost in all of that. It's unbelievable. They believe that they get enlightened or they get freedom or they grow spiritually by going to that level of samsara. So, and then they go into all these scriptures, esoteric scripture, they go into these hidden occult groups that are going to start some philosophies and so on. So entertainment. Only Jnana Yoga, only self-knowledge removes self-ignorance. And only the removal of ignorance gives people freedom from ignorance. Freedom from ignorance is freedom from suffering. We don't want to suffer. This foundation we should have very firmly established in our minds. This is the traditional teaching. To study any commentary of Shankaracharya on any book, these fundamentals he will make very clear from the get-go. We will do a lot of spiritual sadhanas. We will do a lot of spiritual sadhanas without knowing what exactly I am in for. So he means to say, he will make very clear, what you get and what you will not get from this or that sadhana, this or that spiritual path. Otherwise, you will do a lot of physical sadhanas, believing that you're going to get something that the sadhana will never access or provide. You need to know exactly what you get from each one of these sadhanas. We need to know exactly what I am in for, And all of this is extremely vague in most people's minds because fundamentally they don't even know that they want moksha or freedom from samsara. They just want a more pleasant sense of existence or experience, right? Which is okay. It's okay. Which is understandable. Nobody likes to suffer, but if you don't know what is the remedy to remove suffering, you're going to go through all kinds of medical science, allopathy and Chinese and homeopathy, and you're going to take all medicines, but you did not diagnosed properly the disease. Okie dokie. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishate. Om Shanti 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 Om. Om Shwara Namaste. Obrigado. Obrigado, no, thank you for being here. We meet again Friday, okay?
Okay, thank you so much.
Namaste.
Yeah, thank you, Alinda.
Thank
Okay, see you then.
Bye-bye.